Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. It's now time for Checkpoint, and we want to discuss that directive that was made by the President on the land titles in Lamu. And any questions that you may have, we open this up for you. 22155 is our SMS number. We'll try and fit in as many of your questions as we can. My panel tonight, and of course, I also need to mention that we will be hearing from the Cabinet Secretary, Lands, Charity Ngilo. I spoke to her a little earlier this evening, and we'll be getting her input on Checkpoint tonight as well. My guests tonight, let's start on my extreme left, and that is Odenda Lumumba, who's from the Kenya Land Alliance and was also very instrumental in the Dungu Land Commission. We thank you for joining us. And we have the Director of Survey within the Ministry of Lands, Cesare Mbaria. Thank you. He'll be able to give us the technical bits, how this audit came to be, what they found, and what's next. And then right next to him, we have Edwin Sifuna, who's an advocate and a regular on Checkpoint. And then right next to me, Peter Kariuki, who is the advisor on governance, accountability, and delivery in the Executive Office of the President. We thank you all for joining us this evening. Let's start right off the bat and start clearing some maybe myths, controversies. And was the President within his rights under the Constitution to make the directive that he did? And I think perhaps we'll start off with the person who in this room is closest to the President and would be able to speak with authority on that. Let's start with you, Peter. Was he within the law?
Indeed, he is within the law. Because as you understand, the President has a duty and is duty bound to uphold both the Constitution and the laws ensuing from that particular framework. And as we shall be discussing later on, once he was satisfied that there was and there is ground for the action that he directed to be taken or to be initiated, he then acted within the law. And pass on to the provisions as we shall be describing a bit later.
Okay, let's go to you, Odenda. Do you agree?
I think the President, to understand whether the President was within the law or not, I think you need to reflect on the issue of legitimacy, legality, and the practice. I think the President had a legitimate reason to be concerned and to give a sense of what ought to be done. But definitely the government, the President, exercise a very bad approach to dealing with an issue as emotive and sensitive as land is concerned. Legally and constitutionally, the mandate of dealing with management of public land, investigating any contemporary historical land injustice issues, lies with the National Land Commission. The National Land Commission not only advises on opinion how to deal with land matters, coordinates varied management agencies on public land matters, and essentially it is the one which audits in terms of knowing the events of public land.
Okay.
And therefore the President is no longer exercising the executive power over land matters. That ceased in an old constitutional dispensation.
Right. Okay, Odenda, there are some that say that the President himself did not revoke the titles but asked the National Land Commission. Dr. Mohamed Swazuri has said, yes, that is in line with what he did, that he didn't do it himself. Edwin?
Well, the problem with that is the National Land Commission is an independent commission that is not supposed to receive directives from any other agency or entity. And the problem with the directive that the President gave is that it has given those people who might have actually grabbed this land a backdoor to escape from the punishment that they deserve. Because you will remember, you cannot ask somebody to investigate and yet you've already told them what action they are supposed to take. I agree with my friend here when he says the law is very clear. If you look at section 14 of the Land Commission Act, that there is a set procedure that is only the National Land Commission, after even giving an opportunity for the people who've been accused of grabbing land to be heard, so that they make that determination, and then it's only the Land Commission that will direct the registrar to cancel a title.
Right.
But if you've already said this is what you should do, cancel the titles, jail people. What is the purpose of having a hearing before the National Land Commission if there's a predetermined outcome?
Okay, let's understand how this all came to be. Cesare, you are Director of Survey and obviously very key in this position. Tell us about how the audit came up and how it was done.
Thank you, Yvonne. First, the Constitution is very clear that all land belongs to Kenyans, to the people of Kenya collectively, as a nation, as a community, and also as individuals. Also, in the Bill of Rights, Article 40, every person has a right to own property, being part of the country. However, this right under Section 6 does not extend to illegal or unlawful acquisition of land. Now, in this context, when you look at the way it was done, first, there was no land to be allocated in Lamu. In Lamu, we have what used to be called the government land or the public land now, right? And what the county councils were doing then is to make applications to the ministry, and the minister then gave approval, and the Commission of Lands went ahead to allocate this land, which is in itself illegal because it is not within their mandate to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this was, you say, sanctioned by the Minister of Lands? In your investigation, in your audit, this was sanctioned by the Minister of Lands at the time?
In audit, we found that what was being done was illegal as stated.
Okay.
And we may go further. In the Constitution of Kenya, we had said as Kenyans that the public land should not be dealt with until we had the National Commission in place.
Yes.
2,
yes.
Under the transitional to devolved governments, number 1 of 2012, this transitional act had put a moratorium that there will be no dealings of assets.
So that moratorium existed.
Yes. And the 3, if I'm continuing, is that, and remember, even in 2011, the cabinet itself had freezed the transactions of all this land.
So if all of that was done, how then was it sanctioned? Odenda,
I think we are basically splitting hairs here. I say that what we are looking at right now does not seem to add up. I think land reforms in this country is the most badly understood thing, as much as it is really of political importance. Because by 2011, we had a new constitution in place. It was effective as of August 27th, 2010. And therefore, for anybody to purport that the minister was authorizing this, it just doesn't even wash, because there was no powers that the minister would have done. One of the things I find very unacceptable is the way people can conceal crime of this nature knowingly. Because our colleague here was in the Ministry of Lands. He might not have been the director of survey. There were directors in charge of administration of land. There was the Commission of Lands. All the law was very clear to them. And they can find ignorance when crime is being committed and conveniently come to tell us how they will do this. I would even challenge the former minister. He should not only be telling us whether he will expose anybody. The question is, crime was committed. Are any Kenyans aware about this crime?
Okay.
Did they keep silent? Failure to prevent a felony in this matter, they are all culpable.
Okay, all right. Would you like to?
I think I need to come in there, and I'm a bit surprised by my colleague Odenda. But I'll take one thing which I agree with him. He says a crime was committed. Good. The Constitution in Article 62, 3 and 4 does vest public land in the county governments and the national government to be administered by the National Land Commission. Section 2 of the 6th schedule of the same Constitution, 4, suspended those provisions until the National Land Commission was in place. And therefore, the period within which Odenda is talking about, the national government was still administering the question of national land until the National Land Commission came into office. Now, the issue of whether or not persons are culpable, that is why the president is clear. He is directing the current, cabinet secretary and the National Land Commission, which, and you saw the chairperson was present when the statement was being made,
right,
to begin that process. Revoking is not going and putting an X. There's a process stipulated in the law. And they, both the cabinet secretary, whatever role she has, the National Land Commission, their role, they will follow the law as is. And they will go look at the files, look at the deed plans, look at the physical planning plans, give notice as is required in the law for any person interested who has information or an interest in these particular parcels of land to come and put forth their case, as it were. This will be done. The issue is where either illegality or irregularity is established. If it is illegality, the law is clear, revoke the title. If it is irregularity, the law is clear. The commission has the mandate to seek to regularize that which do not follow due process.
Edwin, is this all being politicized, Edwin?
Well, for
is
me,
court taking this too far? Some say the president is coming from a good place.
Well, as a Kenyan, I will tell you that his intentions are intentions that I also share, because I think for every Kenyan, we want to see this matter addressed once and for all. We've been told for the longest time that land is a very emotive matter, that we can't even have a discussion about it. Now that it has started from the highest office in the land, it is very good that we actually have this discussion. And for me, I never thought a day would come when I would agree with what Aden Duale or the leader of majority in the House said, and even Senator Kindiki, that a thief is a thief and a land grabber is a land grabber. So that we are not interested in allocating political blame. We don't want to even out the numbers and have an equal number across the political divide. Everyone who's responsible must be brought to account.
Even if that falls
precisely
within court.
And that's what I'm telling you. If anyone tells you that the problem of land in Lamu began in 2011 and 2012, they're lying to you. But if we have to start with James Orengo and then come to the other people, well and good, for as long as we will come to all the historical injustices in this country that pertain to land. So that is where I stand on that matter.
All right, and we'll come to the TJRC in just a moment, because that was one of those that was meant to address those historical injustices. Cesare, you wanted to add something?
Yes, following on that, on the presidential powers, you look at the Articles 66(1). The state may regulate the land use in public interest for public good, for public order, for public safety, for defense, for morality,
public health,
and public health, and so forth. So the question is, what was done? Was it right? And did the president have the powers? Yes. If you look at Articles 133 on the powers of the president, the president is the head of state and government.
And it is that state that is being referred to in Article 66.
It is really his powers to do what? To do what he did.
All right.
Can we clarify one thing?
Yes.
I think we are not contending the legitimacy of the president to help direct the nation. We are questioning the legality and the practice of what the president did. And the reason is simply this. The same constitution conveniently we are referring to clearly vests the powers of dealing with this matter with the National Land Commission. In the legislation, the same constitution provides parameters which would have saved us from this agony of 500,000 acres being given out. It provides that a legislation will be enacted to prescribe the minimum and maximum. Has this been done? Who is sleeping in this time? The same constitution provides that the parliament will enact a legislation to direct on the review of any grants or disposition of public land to establish the propriety and legality. This is the core of the matter. Why aren't we having this being done as a substantive law or even as a subsidiary law by way of rules and regulation? Where is the direction? Why are we having the cabinet secretary in charge of matters land being put on the pedestal with the commission
Okay.
being made the appendage in
All
this
right.
matter.
Okay, understood. Edwin, just very quickly, because I'd like us to introduce something.
Well,
by
just something
Cabinet
that I
Secretary.
wanted to correct him. Actually, the National Land Commission Act has already set out that procedure. What we are saying is that the president has no mandate to direct that the commission revoke a title or not.
Okay.
The commission has the powers to investigate all these things, and you remember that investigation is even subject to the Article 47, which requires fair administrative action, and it will actually be subject to review to a court if it's seen not to have been done in a fair manner.
Okay.
So any of the lawyers who would want to defend these 22 companies will have a very easy time defending them, because you see that the matter is coming to the Land Commission once a predetermined outcome has already been given to them.
Okay, all right. We spoke to the Cabinet Secretary, Charity Ngilu, on this issue, and and we'll come back and get your reactions on that. And when I spoke to her on phone a little earlier this evening, I asked her, there was an audit that was done in May earlier this year. Why didn't this come up? 400,000 acres, 400,000 acres, 400,000 acres. Why did this not come up then? Listening to what she had to say.
In the right order. But that is when we were also picking and removing some of the files that have now given us the information. You remember it was last year, September 2nd, when we were in Lamu, Pate Island, that the president directed me to give thorough audit to who owned land where, because Governor Timami of Lamu County said that don't issue title deeds as yet until a thorough audit and investigations have been done as to who have benefited with the Lamu land. And that is what I did. And I just gave the report.
Once we come back, she says it was not an audit, it was rather just a reorganization of files. And it ties into a question from one of our viewers. Peter Simon Akako on Twitter says, why wait for the crisis in Lamu to then do an audit? Peter, would you like to take that?
No, I think, I don't know if they had it clearly. When the president, the deputy president and the minister were in Lamu last year, issuing an initial batch of title deeds along the coastal region, the county government of Lamu did request the president then and say, Your Excellency, we do have a land problem in this county. We request that you, as you're going on with this work, kindly have an audit done.
Yes, and she mentioned that.
And she's mentioned that.
Yes, she has.
Now, that is the county government leadership. The president, in their hearing, directed the Cabinet Secretary, Charity Ngilu, to initiate that process, which has gone on for quite some time now. Now that has just recently been completed. The president, remembering that it was the county government that asked for this information, did call them to State House last week. He sat with them for 2 days. You're talking about the leadership of the county, almost 100 people.
But just allow me to cut in there, because some say this happened only after the killings in Lamu took place.
Yvonne, let's, the thing is, it's useful to be factual. The fact is, the county government did request the president to carry out an audit, and the president directed the CS to do the audit in their hearing. September 2nd, you've heard her say that. So let's not begin to bring other issues to confuse her. That audit has been ongoing for those months.
And the results are what?
The results are now out this week.
All right.
To which the leadership was first called before the president made a statement. They were called, they were taken through the results. They saw, they interacted, they asked their questions, they raised their things to clarify, and together they came out and the president issued a statement.
Okay, all right.
The question that I would have for him is this, because the percentage of land that is allegedly grabbed that we were given was only as regards arable land. Was that what the county leadership had asked for? Did they ask for an audit of arable land, as I understand is land that is farmable? Because if you look at the problem in Coast, one of the biggest issues is to do with beach plots. Beach plots, as I understand them, cannot be arable land. So we need to be told what percentage of land in Lamu, first of all, is arable. And then when you throw out a figure like 70%, and I've seen even in the media, people have lost the original statement by the president that said it's only 70% of arable land, and now we're being told it's 70% of Lamu.
The director of survey might be able to give us some facts on that one. Cesare?
Yes.
What percentage of land is it that is in the hands of alleged grabbers?
Indeed, Yvonne, is 70% of the land in Lamu, which means we remain only with 30%.
And that land includes
communities.
Okay.
And this is what we are saying, that is it morally right? Is it in public interest to have 70% and that 22 companies?
That is fine. Can you tell us about the specific land? Because we know about 3 berths that were also allegedly grabbed. What was the nature of the land, this 70% that we're talking about? Arable land, beaches, what did it constitute?
Yes, because all of them, you need this 70% we are talking about here. From our records, we find they were referring to it as agricultural land, which in itself was wrong, because indeed even the process of allocating that is very clearly indicated in the Government Land Act Cap 280, which requires that we have the planning, the surveying, the auctioning, and then the bidder, and then the allocation of the same.
Okay.
And all what you are saying, this was illegal.
All right.
I think we need to correct the fact. The percentage is not 70%. Lamu is about 6,498, if I'm not wrong, square kilometers. It cannot add to 70% to start with. And even if it were, because there have been innuendos about this, that this was because much land had been taken, it had caused strife in that place. The strife we know of lately was in Pekuten, which is then, if that argument is to go by, is the 30%. So are we saying somebody left 70% where it was important to fight and went and fought in 30% to cause insecurity? The other thing which I need to say,
yes,
when we talk about Lamu and we talk about security, we should also remember security of tenure. What the president announced is that amount to tenure in security, because he basically threatened the title, regardless whether you're a third-party title holder, or notwithstanding that even those whom we are investigating, the title they have up to now, we are yet to be told whether they are not valid titles.
Okay.
So if you do that, who else is going to be safe
about
the title?
Okay.
So I think it is a question where we need to know what facts are we putting to people.
All right, very quickly, because we're now coming to the close of our discussion, and I'd like to start with you, and we'll have the last word from you, Peter, in just a moment. TJRC, Ndungu Land Report, you were part of the Ndungu Land Commission. Just very quickly, would these provide the solutions? Do you think the president should actually be going to the TJRC, as some say that he's not, dealing with it holistically as he should? Just
very quickly, I would basically say that the Ndungu report is very exhaustive. The Ndungu report had gave direction, which would apply in this matter squarely. The failure to implement the Ndungu report is really an indictment on the part of those responsible to do the implementation. I think what we are failing here to see is that regardless whether the report is TJRC, whether it's Ndungu report, we have an executive made up of elites who are resistant to land reforms. And this vested interest, pure and simple. They could be commercial, they could be communal in nature, but the bottom line, there's a resistance to implement land reforms in the country. So it doesn't matter which report, not even this audit report. If you asked me if the track record is anything to go by, I would tell you the probability that we will ever implement the result of anything out of this is absolutely zero.
Okay. Cesare, let's just wind up with you very quickly. What next now? What's the next stage?
Yvonne, the next stage is very clear, is to have the law takes its course. Because it is very clear, if something was given illegally, then it is the law to take its course.
Okay, all right, well put. Edwin, I know it's time, so I hate to rush you here a little bit.
I honestly would have supported the idea if the presidency had gone about it in the way that it is stipulated by the law. But as it is right now, I really suspect that most of these accused people are going to get away, simply because, first of all, the concept of land grabbing, as I understand it, is with respect to fast allocations. There is a protection under Section 14, subsection 7 of the Land Commissions Act, for people who are innocent purchasers for value. So if these people are not initial allottees, then there's really nowhere this thing is going. And also, the fact that the president had given specific directives on what needs to happen, that is a revocation of the titles. That is making a predetermination before the process that has been set out under Section 14 before the Land Commission, so that anyone making a claim under Article 47 that he was not subjected to a fair administrative process would have a fairly good chance of actually winning that particular case.
Okay, Peter, as we conclude, can you address that a little bit?
Very
He's
quickly.
talking about the legal aspect of this.
Very quickly, when does the administrative process begin? Mr. Sifuna, you're an advocate.
Before the Land Commission.
One more before the Land Commission.
Yes.
And so the administrative process has not as yet begun, even after the president has directed. So the actual administrative process shall begin when we shall see the National Land Commission issuing a notice and the steps that will proceed thereafter. So Mr. Sifuna can wait to see.
What happens to the president's directive?
One moment, allow me to finish. So if you're talking about a fair administrative process, the administrative process has yet to begin. The president has pronounced himself as the head of state of the Republic of Kenya, which he is well placed to do, to uphold the law and the constitution of the Republic. He is also can exercise an independent opinion in that respect. And now the institutions that are responsible for this will begin to carry out that responsibility. And I want to say this as I conclude. Many people do not expect that the Jubilee government headed by His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta will deal with the land question as they're dealing with now.
Okay.
My colleague Odenda Lumumba, myself, have been dealing with the land question for many years. And now I'm surprised that when things are beginning to be done, now is when they begin to cry that, hey, wait a minute.
Okay.
The government,
you can't go with that.
1 minute.
All right. No, honestly, we're out of time, gentlemen.
We're committed, and I can tell you, we shall respect the law. We shall respect the law, which is why the president did direct the responsible institutions. And they will
deal with it.
To deal with it.
Okay, I am so sorry because I have to cut you off.
And we are dealing with this in accordance with the Article 60D, which calls for transparent and cost-effective administration of land.
Thank you very much. I don't mean to be rude, but we are completely out of time. And I thank you all for coming in and for your insights. Of course, we wait to see what happens. The registries at the coast have now been closed, and the CS in lands will be taking a look at what's happening there. So this is something we'll continue to report about as we carry on. I will be taking a look at some of your feedback on Twitter and on SMS, so keep it coming. You've been watching Checkpoint.